Good evening, America. Welcome to the Michaud Show, episode 3. It's good to see you out there in YouTube land. Hopefully you're watching this on Patreon. Unless you're a sponsor and interested in sponsoring the Michaud Show. Episode 3 of my new thing. I'm doing a podcast interviewing local musicians, dancers, comedians, actors, and I'd like to welcome this week's guest, vibraphone player. So he knows the vibe. Steev Turner. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Zach. It's good to be here.
So how's your week been? Everything good?
It's been pretty nice. Work was a little slow, so got off early a couple days. That was pleasant.
That's always nice, getting off work early.
Any day's a half day if you just leave when you want.
That's absolutely true. I used to work at this nursing home, and whenever I'd show up late, they'd just be like, "Hey, man, you're late." And I'd be like, "Oh, well, I hate it here, so what's the rush?"
Weren't you worried if you showed up late, people would be dead because they're old?
I mean, some days, yes, but I mean, there's nurses there. I was a person who exercised the elderly, so I wasn't like on the front lines of like saving their life. I was like watching Little House on the Prairie with them while we were like using squeeze foam things.
So you were like the Richard Simmons of the nursing home?
Yeah. I think a little more flamboyant. He didn't bring enough sauce to the game. And yes, I'm attacking you, Richard Simmons.
Is he alive?
I don't know. And I don't have anyone to refer to off screen right now, so that I'm just going to say this real quick. Thicky Hendricks, you're fired. Way to show up to your job on your second day. Anyway, back to it. So, Steve, local musician, how about you tell the people out there where they may have seen you before?
Mostly probably playing with the Hoyer Brothers, a band that's based out of Leavenworth, Washington. It's kind of hard to say when we formed because the core members of the group, we've all been playing together since we were 18, 19 years old. I think the Hoyer Brothers officially started maybe in 2013 or 2014 with our current lineup. Primarily that. Also played with you in the Rainy Day Devils, obviously. Had a good couple year run of that.
I don't remember that for some reason.
I think I understand why.
2021. Didn't everything just the Mandela effect? I think that happened in 2020, just to everything, to life as we knew it was like. Now that's just the Mandela effect. It's like, it wasn't that way. No, that's not how it was.
I think you're correct. It's been pretty wild.
Oh, but go on. Sorry, I like taking my cheap shots. It's my show.
That's fair. Primarily the Hoyer Brothers and the Rainy Day Devils. Used to live in Moscow, Idaho, and had a band there called the Turner Jones Connection. That was just kind of a mostly instrumental funk jam band. And then just around there, because the jazz scene's kind of big, just tons of different pickup groups, at bars and coffee shops.
That's one thing I enjoy about the jazz scene. Not that I was bouncing around it, because my skills aren't, I don't think, in a jazz level, or sometimes I feel maybe that's a thing I look down. Reminds me, I was in New Orleans, and it was like 2 a.m, walking through Jackson Square, and there was a couple of guys sitting by this fountain having a jam, and I'm carrying my guitar case, and I stop to listen, and they've got a couple of those Django Reinhardt style guitars, them gypsy jazz guitars, and they are going wild as far as just playing, but they both like look at me, and then they look at my case, and it's like, "Hey, come on." And I was just like, yeah. And so I got my guitar out because it was like, oh, I'm getting invited, and I sit there and I'm trying to comp chords with them, and I am struggling so hard to even keep up with the chords that they're doing and just comping chords. And then the first one just goes into just an insane lick fest of just beautiful, just melodies everywhere and all over the place, and then bounces to the next guy, and he's just as equivalently just beautiful. And then they both look at me, and I'm like, oh God, all right, here's a blues pentatonic, and I'm going to do a major scale just to change it up a little bit. And it's funny because I felt just so insecure about it. And I looked up at them and they were smiling all big and stuff. So, end of the day, it doesn't matter because music's music. But yeah, it's just, I always felt intimidated by that scene.
Even being involved in that scene, I've definitely had that experience. I think the last gig we played before the Rona, Vince, our guitar player, who's the best musician in the band by far, both technically and as far as creating solo ideas and stuff, I can't remember what tune it was, but we were playing, and he just shreds this like 4-minute solo. Just the crowd's going crazy, like the band, all the comping, everything was just popping, like one of those beautiful, really awesome moments. And then he winds it down and he looks to me to pass it on to me to play a solo, and is like, no, fuck you, dude. Like, I'm going to look like an idiot if I play a solo after that. Like, we're good. Let's just play the head and wrap it up here.
Those are fun times at the same time. Looking back on them, they're fun. Mm-hmm. At the time it's happening, it's just like, man. I used to play with this band, Bare Feet, and they all are out of Concrete, Washington, and very still local and very, proud of the town and happy there. And it was a gig where they were playing for a graduating high school class, and just then the high school hired them to come play a set, and I was playing with them at that time, and it was like the local high school band, just a band of kids that were all high schoolers, opened up for us, and their guitarist was like, the first solo he busted out was like a Steve Vai style shred, like, and very accurate, and just the kid was awesome. And I was so angry because I'm just like, whoa, I'm supposed to be the guy coming in to look like hey, look where you can get with what you're doing.
Right, yeah.
And you're going to watch this high schooler just make me look like I'm doing first grade shit. And it's like, man, I'm going to meet him in the parking lot.
Right. Dave Samuels, who's a vibraphonist, most famous for playing in the band Spyro Gyro, like 70s, 80s kind of fusion jazz band. But he gave a clinic in Wenatchee, Washington. And then that night they gave a concert where he was playing with the Wenatchee High School Jazz Band. And they were playing Bag's Groove, a famous tune by the vibraphonist Milt Jackson. And they had 2 vibraphone solos on the song. Dave Samuels, the professional, and the second piano player for the jazz band, vibes weren't even her first instrument. But Dave Samuels played his solo before hers, and then she played, and like, bless her heart, she's doing what she can, but she's a 16-year-old girl playing the vibraphone who's not a vibraphonist. And it's like, the programming on this was a little inappropriate, I think.
Hey, he just wanted to get his rocks off first. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean,
good for him. Interestingly enough, that was the day my vibraphone showed up in the mail. I was in the middle of his clinic, and my mom texted me, and she's like, your vibraphone got here, and I got up in the middle of the clinic, and I went home.
So, actually, now that we keep talking about the vibraphone, for the audience out there that might not be too familiar, you want help them catch the vibe, bro. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So the vibraphone is a mallet percussion instrument, similar to a xylophone or a marimba. The primary difference is the vibraphone has aluminum bars versus wood or synthetic bars that xylophones and marimbas have. And a vibraphone also has a sustain pedal, so the notes can be sustained. You can play big, full chords and let them ring. It actually got the name of the vibraphone because it has a motor that flips wheels on top of the resonators, and it gives it like a wah 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 type sound.
So it's like you're saying it's basically like a metal marimba on nitrous.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. That's
probably the most accurate description I've heard.
Thank you.
Interestingly, though, so it's called a vibraphone because of that vibrato sound. However, that's not actually vibrato because the pitch isn't changing. It's tremolo because it's just the volume of the notes that are changing. So to be technically accurate, it should be called a tremelophone.
I wish it was called a tremelophone.
I do too, really.
That's a fun word. Vibraphone's a fun word.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But like tremelophone?
Yeah. I don't know what you'd shorten that down to because a vibraphone, a lot
you
of
just
people
call
call
it
it
vibes.
vibes.
Trems.
The trems.
I'm playing the trems.
Playing the trems, no big.
No bigs.
Hey, you look like me in the morning.
I used to be there. Interesting place to be.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
No.
I would say worse things have happened to me, but now that I think about it, probably all of the worst things that have happened to me have been because of drinking.
So we potting now. We going there pretty early.
But also a lot of the best things that have happened to me have been maybe not because of drinking, but when I was drinking.
When I've seen you on 4 juices and a 4 Loco.
The juice is loose, baby.
Oh.
One of my groomsmen in my wedding, he's the drummer for the Hoyer Brothers. He drinks the juice, and so that was my groomsman gift to him, was a 6-pack of juices, which I think he drank all at the wedding.
I remember that. Yeah, that was a good time. That was a real good time. So you were back on the Hoyer Brothers. Where can you find them online? Are you guys on Spotify or
I'm not sure.
The Deezer, or there's so many streaming services.
I know the whole album is available on YouTube, and then also we're on Bandcamp. I don't know if that's still a thing that anyone
Bandcamp
uses.
is totally still a thing. Shout out to Bandcamp. We're always looking for sponsors. I know that's not how that works, but we're giving you a shout out. So maybe the 30 people that watch this will go to bandcamp.com and find the Hoyer Brothers.
Yeah. But yeah, if you just if you YouTube search the Hoyer Brothers or on Bandcamp, you can find on YouTube. There's a bunch of live videos too of kind of varying audio and video quality. Some of them are, not that good because they're just someone's camera in the audience or phone in the audience.
I'm very familiar with that. Working for so many years as a solo act, and then a couple times when people are like, "Well, you don't have a lot of photos and stuff, and not a big online presence," and it's like, "Well, I'm not really good at taking pictures of myself while I'm playing and singing."
Right.
And then a lot of times I don't know anybody in the audience, so it's kind of hard to be like, "Hey, random strangers, if you can send me some photos so I can put them on my website." But hey, if you have random photos of Zach Michaud, you can send them to www.zachmichaud.com. Also can go to patreon.com /Zach Michaud Music and show some support. Sign up for the monthlies. $3 a month will get you 2 live stream concerts done from the house, and you get to basically to see the Michaud show 3 days before YouTube does, because you gotta do something, right? Yeah.
For just 10 cents a day.
For just 10 cents a day.
You too can sponsor Zach Michaud.
It'd be good. I'm not gonna lie. My goal is to be able to, it's like OnlyFans for artists is the best way I think I can describe Patreon, and shout out to them. Even though I gotta definitely work on so much.
Am I gonna have to get naked?
No, 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 no. Only if you want to.
Okay, that was my next question: is can I get naked?
I mean, I can edit it out. It's perfectly fine. I prefer if you didn't, because then I have to make this an over 18 viewing. And even though it probably should be anyway,
Valid point.
I do leave it open because I'm not huge on censorship. What are your feelings on censorship, Steve?
I think it's a big load of bullshit, and people should be able to say what they want when they want, as long as you're not putting anyone else in imminent physical danger. Yeah.
I highly agree with you on that. And because Ricky Gervais said it best, I think, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not everything's up. I think people have forgot that not every single thing on earth is a personal attack. In fact, nothing really has to do with anybody that's not directly affected by that particular situation happening. I almost want to start going off on a rant about how reality is so subjective because, yes, we have all commonalities and agree upon things being real, but in all reality, each individual has a different reality going on because it's all reality is just perspective.
Yeah, certainly it's all based on your perception of how of how all of the information in the world enters into your own brain. And so for everyone that can be different.
And like we've all agreed on like this is a couch.
Correct.
So it exists. Yeah.
And also on being offended, I think people should remember that it's okay to be offended. It's okay to have your feelings hurt. It's okay that something upsets you. That doesn't mean whoever did that to you needs to be canceled or needs to be punished for it. You know, it's okay to have those feelings and be upset. That's part of life. That's part of being a human being.
Yeah. The sensitivity of emotions. I was in a discussion of emotional intelligence. And I was just trying to talk about how on both ends of the spectrum, by just like letting emotions control your life and control all your decisions and not being able to put them to the side at one point to like just be like, oh, hold on. Am I overreacting on this just because it's really bringing these feelings out of me? And should I deal with that before I try to deal with this, deciding to cancel this person or whatever? It's just that more immediate satisfaction, instant gratification, like, oh, no, I'm just going to act on that, to where that's like, just because you're super sensitive about everything doesn't mean you're emotionally more intelligent than a person who can separate.
Correct. And I would almost make the argument that you're less emotionally intelligent than someone who doesn't have those kind of overreactions, or if in their brain and mind, if they have those overreactions, they can digest it for a minute, think about it.
Yeah.
And, realize they don't need to cancel somebody essentially.
Yeah. I mean, because if we're going to do cancel culture, there's a bunch of congressmen slacking ass right now, and we should at least direct it toward the right people. Because you, like, cancel a celebrity, and it's just like, wow, cool. I never watched that show anyway.
Right.
It's good that, but ruin that person's life. Cool, because that's, I guess, the spiritual thing to do. That's what you just gotta do. It's like they fucked up, so we better make sure that they just can never like even get a chance to redeem themselves again.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing is it seems like people don't accept redemption anymore. Like I think a good example of that was Kevin Hart was supposed to host the Oscars a couple years ago, and then someone dug up these old gay jokes from his Twitter, which he had already apologized for several times, and they were like 10 years old, and the Oscars committee told him he had to go out and make another public apology. And he said, no, fuck you. I've already apologized for those so many times. Also, I'm a comedian and they're jokes. Like,
yeah. Which it's weird who can get away with saying what in that sense. Because even comedians nowadays, like, the more social justice happens and the more cancel culture develops, that, like, that's got to be a tough job.
yeah.
As far as, which is why I'm going to take a swing at it eventually. Stages start opening back up. I'm going to attempt some stand-up. You can always follow me at www.zachmichaud.com. Speaking about shameless plugs, Steve, you got any shameless plugs you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's cool.
I have a Facebook. My name's Steve Turner. You can friend me if you want. Also, I do have a MeWe account, and I only have 2 friends. So if you find me on MeWe, it's really boring on there for me right now.
So how cute are you today?
Well, so the other people I follow on MeWe are the Epic Times or Epoch Times or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's one other, fairly conservative news outlet. But so every time I log on, it's just like 40 fucking Epic Times articles in a row. And you have to pay to read them. And so I never even read it. So I'm just scrolling through these headlines about whatever. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
So I need friends on MeWe. So
what's your favorite conspiracy right now?
Oh. Favorite.
Yeah. Maybe not favorite, might be most interesting, like, to you. What one are you kind of just like, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole for a little bit?
There's a good one, and this is kind of old. There's several levels to it. And it ties into, like, now kind of in mainstream culture it's come out is like the Jewish space laser thing. And I don't know who called it that or where that came from.
Oh, the Marjorie, that congresswoman.
Is that Congress
Marjorie,
lady?
Whatever her face is. She's such a loon, she doesn't deserve recognition on my show.
But I was listening, I think his name's David Wilcock. He's kind of like, he's on Ancient Aliens all the time and like all those shows, but the big wildfires in California a couple years ago, his hypothesis, and you can find pictures and videos of this that are, they're anomalies for sure, and I'm not saying this is absolutely what it is because I don't know, but they call them direct energy weapons, and essentially it's just a giant bolt of energy that shoots down. But his hypothesis is that there's several alien races that live on the Earth and either live underground or they can disguise themselves as humans, or they're humanoid enough looking in their natural state that they can get by. But there's a race of aliens called the Centaurians that populated Paradise, California. And they were about to come out and tell the world that they are the Centaurians. They live here. There's aliens among us. The government knew that, or the globalists, or the cabal, or whatever you want to call it. So they use these direct energy weapons to burn down Paradise, California, to kill all the Centaurians, so they couldn't be whistleblowers. Essentially, that one, it's certainly interesting. Just to be clear, I'm not saying I believe any of this shit, but I think it's very interesting and it's fun to, broaden your horizons.
No, see, so I absolutely adore, love conspiracy theories because it does make you wander off, and it's like the What If Marvel comic series, where that was like the one series of comics where they could just make up any story. What if Thor decided he wanted to be a supervillain and just kill everybody? Like those type of things, right, where it's just so as long as you can treat it like that and not get caught into like the shooting up a pizza parlor to save the children in the basement.
#Pizzagate.
#Pizzagate. Looking for sponsorship, Pizzagate, if you're
shout out to Comet Ping Pong in Washington, D.C.
Oh, they're not still around, are they?
Yeah, I think so. The owner, speaking of conspiracy theories, the owner of Comet Ping Pong is, I believe, part of the Rothschild family.
Now,
which is interesting.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay, that just...
As is Anderson Cooper.
Oh, that one's been debunked.
Has it? Don't Google it. Go to DuckDuckGo and look it up. You'll get better results.
Considering YouTube and Google are pretty good friends, can you not throw out DuckDuckGo? Unless DuckDuckGo, we're always looking for sponsorship. The MichaudShow.com. Not even .com. It's just the Michaud Show. I fucked up. See, this is going to, by episode 100, it's going to be fire. This is fun, though. But yes, the great thing about conspiracy theories, though, it's if you can use it as long as you keep it conspiracy theories are like the ultimate alternate reality games, like how those are popular video series that you can follow and chase and all of that and really get into the story, start questioning if it's real or not. You keep it at that level. And I was watching Bill Maher the other night, and he had a really good point, just pointing out, what people choose to believe, as far as just it is kind of crazy to think that you would throw, for the folks that are really super into QAnon, a whole lot of them are fundamental Christians. And so it kind of makes sense that they would be so tried and true believing this. Because when you read the Bible, I mean, there are stories with dragons and all sorts of very questionably real things.
Correct.
That they tried and true believe, because that is the word of their respective God. I'm personally one of those. There's 2,700 of them, so I'm going to just... all or none, baby. They're all hanging out. Probably think we're probably so entertaining to them figuring this out. They're just you're real popular, bro.
Yeah, the QAnon thing is very interesting, and I'll be super honest, back in maybe last February, March, I got kind of turned on to it, and I started to get really interested in it and started to believe a lot of it. And there's aspects of QAnon that I believe are not aspects of QAnon, but aspects of what a lot of Q people believe that I also think are true, that there's essentially global, there's something bigger than our government that actually runs things in the world. And whether you want to call it a cabal or globalists or the New World Order or whatever.
Well, I don't want to call it the NWO, because there's only one NWO to me. They are for life. And if it's not Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Hulk fucking Hogan, then I want nothing to do with your New World Order. For life. We're talking too sweet. Who's your favorite pro wrestler? If you have one.
I don't really know who's on the roster, but I think when I used to watch it, it would have to be either Stone Cold or Mankind.
Nice choices.
I'm not
good choices. Oh no, that's what I usually, when I say favorite wrestler, it doesn't have to be current.
Right.
If someone asks me my favorite wrestler, I tend to think of my all-time. I'll name first, which I'm kind of a mark in the sense of it's up in the air between Macho Man Randy Savage and Ric Flair. Because in Ric Flair's prime, he was just the absolute best on the microphone. But at the same time, Macho Man Randy Savage, during that whole cocaine era, as I like to call it, was probably the best promos of just
incredible.
You can't even get close to where he was at. He had brought it to such a level.
Yeah, there's a video that was kind of viral a few months ago of it was one of the promos between him and Hulk Hogan, and they're I think it's when they're trying to make an alliance, and they're about to shake hands, and you can tell both of
they're
them
going to the ionosphere, brother.
Yeah, you can tell they've each had about 5 grams of cocaine, just fucking all sweaty and ripped and roid raging. Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, good times. Good times.
Yeah, Macho Man and Ric Flair are a little before I really started watching wrestling. Because I really watched it in middle school, so probably like 98 to 2002.
So the Attitude Era.
Yeah, it's like The Rock, Mankind, Stone Cold, Undertaker,
which
Kane.
is like the golden years for as far as just probably wrestling's most prominent as far as mainstream media and everything was the Attitude Era, when they just went loose with it. I mean, an old lady gave birth to a hand on television.
I don't know if I remember that.
Mae Young, Mark Henry had impregnated her, being sexual chocolate. They had a love story. And then, she ended up getting knocked up and gave birth to a hand.
That's pretty nice. Do you remember Rikishi?
Rikishi, yeah. So Roman Reigns, current champion, stuff like that. Jey Uso, all of them, they're all related to Rikishi.
Oh, really?
It's part of the, I can't remember the name of the family, I feel bad, but it's part of this big family that is very traditional, been the Samoan family of wrestling for like ever. I do believe, no, I don't know if The Rock's related to him or not. I try not to delve into people's families that much, but I just know they all come from a wrestling family.
Oh, yeah, and then there was also Viscera, who was kind of like the fat black version of The Undertaker.
Yeah. Well, he started out with, not as Viscera, he was, why can't I have it? Mabel. Originally in the early 90s when wrestling was like, man, when Doink the Clown was the shit. And that's telling you something that is bad. Shout out to Doink. But where was I going with that? I don't even remember. Anyway, so we're just going to move on then, because I don't have time for it. If I don't remember what I was talking about, not even important. So back to your favorite place to play a show.
I would probably have to say the Club Crow in Kashmir, I think. Because most of the band grew up in Kashmir. My friend's the bar owner. They have a 6 stage. And it's just every time we play, it's always just popping. Just always feels really good. Everyone's happy, you know. Everyone's drinking a lot. And just super loose. Yeah, I would have to say the Club Crow. As far as places I get to play at, you know, on any consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember how much of the stage we filled up at Tim's Tavern?
CMAs.
See, because, Steve and I were in a band together, Rainy Day Devils. ReverbNation.com/Rainy Day Devils. I believe there's some songs for sale and everything. Also at www.zachmichaud.com. Back to it. So we played... when Steve first joined the band, we didn't have a bass player and continued to not have a bass player. So we were a 3-piece where it was drums, Jeremy DeBarty from Steel Beans, and vibraphones and guitar. So 2 higher end melodic instruments and drums with no real bottom. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was always a fun time.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah, I love those kind of divey places, you know.
yeah.
Mostly you always meet very interesting people there, I think.
Yeah. Because the couple of times I have played shows where they were actually like club shows and had the green room and like would go out kind of into the bar sometimes, but a lot of times if I got a green room, I'm just kind of hanging out in the back. And then, to be honest, if you want to talk to me after a show, I'll be outside smoking cigarettes. I feel bad for so many bands that I like. If I play immediately before you, I'm telling you right now, I'm never going to see your set. Because I will be outside chain smoking cigarettes for about 45 minutes. And then I'll pop my head inside, hang out for like 2 or 3 songs, and then I will probably be back outside to chit chat and smoke cigarettes and maybe a joint or two, you know, depending what state I'm in. Doesn't matter what state I'm in. What are your feelings on transgressional cannabis consumption?
Transgressional?
I don't know what I just said.
I think cannabis consumption is great for a lot of people. I think a lot of people enjoy it. I enjoy smoking cannabis. I certainly don't smoke it as much as I used to, but still partake on a, mostly daily basis, probably.
Can someone look up what transgressional means?
In the context of cannabis use.
In the context of cannabis use. And leave a comment down in the comments. Like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. I'm still just getting used to this whole thing. What do you, got you have any new projects coming up or anything down the works or?
Kind of. The Hoyer brothers has morphed a little bit. Marcus Hoyer, who's written the majority of the songs and has been the lead vocalist. He's not involved with the band as much anymore. So now it's kind of shifted back to what it used to be, which is called Steev Turner and Justice for All. Very similar band to the Hoyer brothers, play a lot of Hoyer brothers tunes, and then also some other kind of more instrumental jazz stuff that I've composed.
So I've been thinking about it, and every time I hear that name, I really believe that you guys should do a Halloween show and then do a cover of the album of Metallica's and Justice for All. Because I think that would just be phenomenal.
It would be sweet. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny you say that. 'Cause, Metallica, when I was growing up, was my favorite band. I think mostly because it was my older brother's favorite band.
So that's why you got the chops.
But when I started Steev Turner and Justice for All, it was probably 2008 or so. It was literally what it sounds like, justice for all, justice for everyone, let's have an equal and fair society, kind of what today would probably be viewed as kind of social justice warrior-y type ideas that I had for the band. Since then, as I've grown older, I have different thoughts on a lot of things. But the name I still really like the name, and just the premise of justice for everyone, I think is still, important and a very good one.
Justice for all. Indeed.
Indeed.
Except Nazis.
It's fair.
Yeah. Because you can say that. And no one's going to care. Except Nazis. But if you're listening to this, go fuck yourself.
Or subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
You can still like and subscribe. It's fine.
I mean, God, for monetary reasons, I guess, I shouldn't exclude anyone. But
one thing I think people do need to be careful about, it's been growing over the last few years, and like over the last year, it's gotten crazy. Is I feel like a lot of times anyone who's conservative, or maybe they're like extremely conservative, they get branded a Nazi by people on like the opposite end of the spectrum. And I just think that's a really dangerous situation, because it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, because then you're eventually not going to recognize actual Nazis.
Yeah, if you're calling Ben Shapiro a Nazi, who's a guy who's certainly right of center, then what do you call someone who's an actual Nazi who actually wants to kill Jews, who actually is a member of the Aryan Brotherhood?
Well, I don't have anything to say to that because that's a good point. No, it's a very good point. Because you don't want to get too extreme with it.
Yeah.
Because then you'll just end up like the soup Nazi. And then no one gets soup. And then that would be depressing to me. I love soup. So, what's your favorite type of soup?
Probably split pea.
Oh, that's a good one.
The corn. My wife makes a really good corn chowder, bacon in it, sometimes some ham.
Oh, that's
good.
rad.
But yeah, split pea.
So, like hot sandwich and soup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of my favorite dinners.
So, what's your favorite hot sandwich?
BLT.
Okay, that was fast.
Yeah,
There's
BLT.
so many hot sandwiches.
There are, yeah, because there's a Philly cheesesteak. I mean, there's just a nice steak sandwich.
Good French dip.
French dip. It's incredible.
Loose meat sandwich. Don't leave out the loose meat
sandwiches.
sandwiches.
Can't forget about them loose meats.
They call it a manwich meal for a reason.
Yeah, sandwich is a sandwich. Manwich is a meal.
A manwich is a meal.
We are looking for sponsors.
We are looking for sponsors. Thanks, Steve. I've been really happy. All my guests so far have been doing really well, including themselves just in the show, which is great. I want everyone. This is going to be just like a big family network of rotating group of guests. Because yeah. Unless I don't know you, you're going to come over once, probably have an awkward conversation. I'm going to look at your tits, whether you're a guy or a gal. Just going to let you know that now. And always looking for sponsors. You can put your ad right here after I talk about staring at your tits.
I'm starting to get some tits.
I have jiggle now. It's part of like I guess getting old, and I was always underweight, and so now I've finally in my life hit that point where I'm like the weight I feel I should be. But now I'm looking in the mirror. There's been a few times where I'm just like, well, I should probably tone this up a little bit because I'm starting to look shapes that I don't want to be, and my tits bounce.
Yeah, this is certainly the fattest I've ever been in my life. I was doing, really well before COVID. Had a solid 6 months of going to the gym 3 or 4 days a week. Felt good. Was looking good. Lost maybe 10 or 15 pounds. And then the gyms closed down. And I started going down conspiracy theory rabbit holes and drinking a lot more. And yeah, probably gained about 25 pounds since then.
Yeah.
And I jiggle a lot.
So where were you on January 6th?
Well, I wasn't at work, you know that.
I do know that. That's why I'm asking. Just, I was waiting until we were on camera. That's all.
Yeah, well, I can neither confirm nor deny that I was at the Capitol.
They can.
Yeah, they got cameras everywhere.
They got cameras everywhere. People had their cell phones. That's always a fun one. Just that has become the new fad. Is like filming yourself doing crime. Is the new fad.
These dumb fucking kids. Like what?
Oh, they're gonna plant microchips in us, bro. And it's like, you're saying that to your phone, which has microchips in it.
Right.
That has microchips in it.
Yeah, and which tracks everything you do.
Everything you do. I've gotten to the point where I'm starting to think there has been times where I haven't even said the thing out loud yet. I'd be like thinking of like an artist to do, and I'll click my search on YouTube and type in the first letter. And the first thing that will pop up is what I was thinking about. And it's like, that's coincidental too often.
Right, yeah, it's a...
Because when we go on...
I had this... I haven't talked to him in years, but I have this friend, and his whole family are, total like survivalist prepper type people. And we were out somewhere by Yakima or Sela, and we were gathering elk sheds in the spring. They open up this refuge every spring, and you can go pick up all the elk sheds. And we're all sitting around the campfire at night, and we start talking about like kind of conspiracy theory stuff. and it was two brothers, and one of them goes, shh, shh. And he pulls out his phone from his pocket, and he goes and opens the truck door and puts the phone in there. And then he has all of us do the same thing, and then he gets the truck door closed, and we move like 30 feet away from the truck. And he's like, they're listening to everything you say. And I was just kind of like, well, you're kind of fucking crazy. But then like a year or two later was when Edward Snowden came out, and he was like, yeah, we're listening to everything you say all the time. And I was like, oh shit, he was right. Like, I thought he was just kind of a crazy conspiracy theorist.
So the movie Southland Tales, I love that movie so much. Due to part of it is it's a kind of look into a dystopian future where that is the norm. That is the norm. Everybody just knows that, like, everything you do is being monitored, and there are people that just have jobs that sit there and watch screens and listen to conversations of just everything that's going on. Very 1984-ish, I guess, in that sense. Which is funny because in 1984, Big Brother is going to, just that's the end of times. And nowadays, it's like, hey, Big Brother, what's the recipe for blueberry pancakes?
Yeah, I mean, we're
taking advantage of it right now, like, as we speak.
Yeah. And I think you have to be foolish not to understand that that's where things are headed.
Especially now with security, and that everyone, it seems, is willing to give up basically everything just for a better sense of security.
Yeah, that's
whether it be real security or just a false sense.
That's one thing that really worries me about the Capitol riots, is I'm really worried they're going to use that as a pretext to classify a whole bunch of people as like domestic terrorists. Because John Brennan, the former head of the CIA, a couple weeks ago came out. He listed all these groups of people that should be classified as domestic terrorists, but libertarians was one of them. Which it's not a mainline political party, but
it's a political party.
But it's a political party.
And that's not right.
Yeah, and just to say libertarians should be classified as domestic terror, that's where things start to get a little scary and weird to me.
No, like, if it's like a proven white supremacist group,
right,
probably should be a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, and I think that's
unless
fair.
They don't terrorize anybody.
Right.
And then maybe just still keep an eye on them, being like, what's your deal?
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing, because while I absolutely disagree with white supremacists,
at the same time,
you should be allowed to believe that, as long
as you don't hurt anybody or make their life harder.
Yeah, if you're not violating anyone else's rights, you should 100% to be able to believe that nonsense.
Yeah, well, because that comes down to, or if you believe the opposite, where absolutely not, you can't even think or feel that way. Then you're getting into the territory of, then what's to stop you from saying that about any religion or anything? Because then if you're going to make it to where beliefs aren't sacred, and you know what I mean, you can't, but at the same time, like white supremacy is fucking really stupid and just like wrong. But just to verify with people in case it sounds the wrong way at any time, just to be clear.
I come off the wrong way a lot of times, as Zach can attest to.
But it's not condoned at any point in time. Because it sucks. If you are one, I mean, don't hurt people, but you still suck.
I really liked what we were talking about it the other day about the idea of the political spectrum being the horseshoe versus the straight line. That's something I'd never heard of or thought of. And it makes a lot of sense, because both people on far extremes totally want to silence the other side, which ends up being just a form of totalitarianism and oppression, which I think is something most people agree we don't want and nobody wants, and that's not good for society.
Yeah, and problem is what I've just noticed in some conversations I've had is the problem is getting people to admit that there's even an extreme on both sides,
Right.
because they won't admit to it. They're just like, no, that's you'd have to go so far to be considered extreme. It's just like, well, that's the whole point, and there are, like, we need more extreme centrists out there to just cut through the bullshit.
Agreed. That's kind of the unfortunate and hard thing is the people on the extremes of either side
Have the loudest voices.
they have the
right
loudest
now.
voice, the biggest megaphones, and they're the minority on either side of things. Most people, their beliefs lie somewhere near the center, a little to the left or a little to the right. But most people just want to get up, go to work, get their money, live with their family, have fun, love their friends, enjoy their community. That's
the end goal.
Yeah, that's what almost everyone wants. And I think the left and the right, there's just different ideas of how to get there, and the amount of government intervention in those things that's appropriate to accomplish what is the same goal. We all want the same thing.
But it is a little weird because as society's changed and politics have changed, because the extreme right has turned into, Reagan or Nixon would be rather liberal compared to a modern day conservative Republican, which is crazy to think about because both those fellers were rather, well, I think they're monsters, but I wasn't a fan. They didn't actually, well, no, Reagan years definitely affected me because I was alive through Reagan. Nixon, not really, just stories of Nixon and the whole Watergate thing which is funny because comparatively to some presidents we've had lately, Watergate didn't even seem like it was that big of a deal.
On that same token, too, like President Bill Clinton, if he were to run on that same platform today, he would be like a moderate conservative, like he would be a Republican. And it's just interesting because it seems like in politics with our politicians, they're getting further and further away from the center, which I think is kind of the problem we're talking about a little bit.
Yeah, because it's being the outside voice, the extremists are the ones getting heard.
Yeah. So
when everyone else is just like, well, no, just somewhere in the middle of that. And then just to remember that, also just people just too much morality is getting into politics in the sense of just basing when you're talking human rights and stuff. Human rights is more than just a political issue. It's like a morality issue.
Yes.
It should be beyond politics because it's just the right thing to do, like as a human being, unless at that point you're acknowledging that we're, just animals at the end of the day, which is true because we're just mammals that live on planet Earth and we're in the animal kingdom, and you can't say we're in the animal kingdom and not animals.
Yeah, correct.
Because otherwise we would be aliens, and that's a whole nother conversation. I did just read a nice Tumblr thread about how there was at one point 9 different humanoids on the planet Earth all at the same time.
Between like Neanderthals and Homo sapiens and like Homo erectus
and all the like. And so part of why humans don't like watching animated humanoids that are too close to looking like an actual person is because that's a trigger from way back in the day when we ended up killing off all the other humanoid style, because they're saying it wasn't any sort of, it's not like they died off with the dinosaurs. It's not like they died off due to a freeze or way too hot or whatever. Most of the time when they were finding remnants and stuff, there was like war activity always around it. So it was more like, no, the most evolved form of humanoid just got freaked out by all the other humanoids and decided to like genocide them. So I guess that's just been our thing, like,
Yeah,
which is
that's a good jumping off point for humanity.
yeah. I mean, nothing, not much has changed. Let's just say
Yeah.
a lot has changed, but not a lot has changed. But nice segue. I'm thinking we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do a musical performance because you are a musician. So I'd like to feature some pieces by you or a piece or, I guess whatever you want to do, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to push a hard narrative at this show ever. America, listen here. I'm not trying to push a hard narrative. If you want to take me seriously, if you want to take my guests seriously, because they're like people and have feelings and thoughts.
That's this one.
And thoughts and prayers. But we'll be right back, and hope you stick around, because and if you don't, you can always come back to the video at www.zachmichaud.com. Check out Patreon. Check out Zach Michaud Music for Patreon, or check out my links down below. Like and subscribe. We'll be right back with some music.
Also, find me on MeWe.
Find Steve on MeWe. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. A Michaud Show premiere. Steve Turner from the Hoyer Brothers. Steve Turner and Justice and For All. And the Rainy Day Devils is going to do a solo piece right now. That's why I'm using my NPR voice, because he's going to be setting the vibes, if you will, for the rest of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Turner. and the train enters the station. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Turner. We're going to take a short break. Be right back. I'm going to play a couple tunes with Steve. More than 7. Less than 6. A fun thing about being a musician with a show, and you have a musician on the show, is you get a chance to jam with them if they want to. It's not like you can force anybody anymore. Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, offensive things. If you are triggered right now, no one can deal with it but yourself. Just want to remind you that. This next song's kind of about being triggered. This is a Rainy Day Devils tune called Fall Down Willie. 1, 2, 7, 1, 5, 4. Wanna be a hustler of the light. When Willie had an ounce round the local park and made his rounds, while asking random strangers if they wanted to get high. Willie knows he's nothing special. Got no confidence at all. Willie's searching, he's just searching to find. Willie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. Willie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. Susie works a block, well for 20 bucks she'll suck your cock. She's something that you call a prostitute. Well, Susie's been a whore since the age of 14 anymore, and you would be surprised what 40 bucks would put her through. Susie knows she's nothing special. Good time, give a call. Susie's searching, she's just searching for a peace of mind. Susie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. Susie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. No confidence at all. Willie's searching, he keeps searching for a peace of mind. Willie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. Willie, sit this one out, we'll watch him fall. Sit this one out, we'll watch them fall. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in. The Michaud Show. We'll be right back. Wrap this whole thing up. like a towel after you got out of the shower. That's about time here at the Michaud Show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in, Steve. This has been a great time.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
A few more questions before we go, though. And what I got to ask is book of the week. What's your book of the week?
Book of the week. I have to say A Clash of Kings by George Martin.
Okay, nice. At first, I thought you were talking about an app video game, a mobile video game. Clash of Kings.
That's Clash of Clans. Used to play it. Good game.
Sponsorship. We need it. I need it. So, okay, cool. While we're talking about books, since I brought it up, shameless reason to, because I'm doing this every week, you know. You notice I asked for a favorite pro wrestler earlier. I like to cover multiple topics throughout, not just music. My book of the week is The Best of the Best, Uncle John's Bathroom Reader. It's a bunch of short stories and quirks and interesting true stories. This particular book has a story that when I read about it, I couldn't stop laughing because my friend Ken had told me the story, and it involved one of our friends that they ended up making it in the book. Not by name, mainly because this young female ended up getting arrested for bar fighting due to the song Yellow by Coldplay. You'll have to read the book to get the full story. But there's an after story that's not in the book that Ken told me. And it was when she had gotten out of jail. Because she went to jail for it, because that happens when you fight a bunch of people, including the security guard. I think she bit him to where he bled. I don't quite remember. But then she's getting out of jail. She's like doing her walk of shame home type deal. And a patrol car slows down by her, and out of their loudspeaker, "Look at the stars, look how they shine for you." And Seattle cops are fucked up like that, and I will say that because back in my day, when I first moved to Seattle, would hang out in Victor Steinbreck Park. It's kind of behind Pike Place Market, and people would sell weed there, and you play music and just hang out all day. It's a nice spot. But it'd be funny because the cops were a bit on the crooked side, where you weren't always getting in trouble if your drugs were good. But like they'd also do screwball things like drive slowly around and out of their loudspeakers just say no. Just say no. And you look, and his buddy in the car is just cracking up laughing while he's sitting there. Just say no. Good times. Crooked cops. They'd always get their 28-day vacation. Rehab, right?
Yeah, it took me a second to.
I was gonna say, but okay. So we're moving on. Do you have a movie of the week? Movie suggestion for ladies and gentlemen, and all the other liquid fluid creatures.
Yeah, there's a really cool one. I know it's on Netflix.
Is it Trump versus the Illuminati?
I haven't watched that. But Extraction, starring Chris Hemsworth, mostly because there's a scene in the movie where he beats the shit out of a bunch of kids, and it's hilarious.
Okay, that's good. My movie pick of the week. Classic, Freddy versus Jason. I'll call it a classic because this movie took way too long to make, made way too after these two were relevant as characters, but just keeping it alive. And I love horror movies so much that no two fucks do I give. If it's like, oh, it's more of a B film, it's like, please, yes, more of that. You can throw it in D territory. I don't care if I see the zipper on the monster. I just want a good story about a chupacabra. That's not what Freddy versus Jason is, but you should go out and watch it. I believe you can find it free on a lot of places. www.zachamshow.com. I'm going to start pirating movies. No, it's not true. Steve, thank you very much, though.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, so just one more thing before we go. Would you like to touch my ball?